here for game number 3 of the first match we got here tonight. Dove picking up that MVP, had a couple of fantastic fights on the Ucal, looked extremely clean. And we begin to once again realize why they banned it in game number 1 and why we'll probably see it banned here in game number 3.
Is this guy plugging his YouTube, you wonder? I see the word YouTube, I can read that part.
LCK and also Cloud Templar YouTube.
There
so
you
probably
go.
a Cloud Templar YouTube fan.
I feel like this drop is going to be about names. And by names, I mean Ucal, banned in game number 1, if you remember. And banned instantly here. Draven. You know, these picks that are the Talia, these are big picks for particular players, and they're picks that we're going to be keeping a close eye on. When I was walking back from the bathroom, I passed the Afreeca players, and I heard aiming, muttering about Draven. So definitely they have some idea about Draven, and they're not going to pick it, and Sandbox isn't going to pick it either. These are big picks. These were the 2 champions that popped off in game. Did this ban Xin Zhao? And they're like, no. Play the meta, damn it.
Bad Sandbox. Well, it's going to be good old Sir Thomas Kench taking off here.
Interesting. I wonder why. Maybe they want to force Sandbox to actually have to put resources into bot lane because Tom Kench is usually weak side champion. What's the final ban going to be here from Sandbox? A lot of targeted bans means meta stuff is open.
Ooh, no Jace.
First round Yuumi as well, which is a bit of a change from some of the other things we've seen. So lots open. Karma priority a bit lower than in the past, and for these teams with the double pick comps we're seeing, probably not going to be as important. So
Sejuani
you mentioned the Jace.
too.
Sejuani's been falling through. The Gragas has been taken higher. The Gragas Yasuo threat from Afreeca.
Oh.
I think you have to go it. And the reason I say that is Gragas Yasuo, like those Sejuani lanes, makes you clench every time you push up in mid lane. Because you're like, oh, if the Gragas ult's there, I'm screwed. So why not Sejuani Camille versus Gragas Yasuo? Like, that would be the ultimate. Who can even walk up? Who would dare? Be a fun matchup. And yeah, first pick Gragas. What's the response going to be from Sandbox? Hard to pass up Jace when it's Kiin versus Summit.
Yep, Summit. Definitely his favorite one. Champion that he does like to pick here. He is currently 5-2 on the pick, and I'd imagine that it gets banned against him almost all the time. So, flies through, and as you mentioned, Afreeca felt forced to take the Gragas here and let that one through. So they knew what they were giving up.
Zyrakan is up, so given that Afreeca have been playing only pick comps, you start Zaya and then you work out the rest. Now, do they lock in Yasuo is kind of the most interesting query here. I feel like Ucal's confidence always been a pick for him. He's 100% win rate on it in summer, 3 games. I think we go Yasuo here. Because then we just go into the stratosphere and the hype levels.
Yeah.
we have to watch our voices today.
And how about a Kai'Sa too?
Really loud. And it could be a very long day.
Well, we'll make it through. As they are going to pass up on the Yasuo for now. They get that Kai'Sa to also hop into the team fights, but then they prioritize the Ryze here.
And is it a Kiin Ryze? Because Kiin is a Ryze player throughout his career. Great Ryze player. Ucal could play it. Mid lane feels like it's more of its spot, but it's suspicious to see. Where it was locked in, Sandbox close up on the Zyrakan. Ryze starting to see play. Some people clearly rate it, other people aren't convinced yet. So we're getting more and more data points on the Ryze over time. Corki and Azir fall through first round. The Corki especially.
Ooh, thanks.
And that's because think about the games we're playing here and then plug and play Corki and the other 9 champions staying the same. And by the time Corki has 2 items, 800 people have already died. And he doesn't have any pick CC, so they've been dropping him.
It's not the meta of this series,
no,
definitely.
This is not LCK meta. This is Sandbox versus Afreeca Freecs. That's why certain picks have been falling through a bit. Sejuani, for example, still open.
Open every time and not picked, so she was number 1 in terms of presence before today, but I think Yumi's going to overtake her after this series.
Where's Aatrox at? It's first round. It's not going to entirely escape into the second round, going to be banned away. I feel like this is a real feeling out process. Notice Sandbox did not ban Yasuo, which suggests that they have an answer for it at last pick. They do have overall red side last pick. Again, let's remember, 5 games, all of them have gone blue side so far. So here's the 6th one. Afreeca Freecs want to make it 6-0, and that means they will go 3-3 on the regular season against Sandbox. But importantly, win this game with playoffs on the line.
Every match win, every game win really comes down to it, and they're going to put their chips on Silas here. Kind of an interesting one, has mobility.
Yasuo is good in Silas too. But not necessarily going to be a Silas mid lane, as we should talk about what we do in Afreeca Freecs. We're hovering an Ornn. That would be surprising. Now, usually we mentioned that Ryze is a Kiin pick, but because of the Ryze changes, it will in fact be a Ucal pick. They'll be going mid lane Ryze, top lane Kennen on this drop. We're waiting to see the jungler, Lee Sin's open. As maybe we're not. Sorry, the Grog's next. We're not looking to see a jungle. We're looking to see a support. Hovering the Pike here. That'd be hype. Senan's already hovered the Leona earlier, and he will go Leona this time. Okay.
Huh. Even with the Nautilus available.
Yep.
I thought he was a one-trick pony. What happened?
Blue side confidence to go the Leona this time. The famous interaction of following the battle dance, following the Rakan wherever he goes. Cool to see this return as less than a sometimes food. Sandbox, last overall pick. Can go a lot of different ways. The meta choice will be Sejuani. They're gonna go Sejuani. Jace can go into melee form. The Silas a melee champion. There definitely is some synergy here, but it isn't quite the Aurelia or the Camille levels of threat onto the Ryze. And Ryze wants to be mid lane and farming out because he doesn't have the shields anymore. The amount of damage he does against a very mid-range Sandbox team, though, if you can go full AP, and we saw, I think, Kiin go full AP, you do unbelievable AoE damage on Ryze in the late game.
He's fun. He's definitely fun now. Once you get to that late game, I've been seeing it a little bit more, even in solo queue. It can put out some pretty insane numbers. So, Ucal mixing it up here for the 3rd time. Went to Leah, into Azir, into now Ryze. So, showing the depth and the ability for himself to play all these different champions and find success. As we're going to hop into looking at these compositions one last time.
Ucal did play Ryze against Damwon recently. That was victory. That was into the old LeBlanc matchup, which we've obviously seen through many, many metas. Expected to be full damage. We thought that we would see much more of the Doimby style Ryze because the shields were gone. You need to get your resist somewhere. Turns out people just want to blow people up. So I think for mid lane, the full AP build makes a lot of sense. Junglers have been so pivotal in this series, and Dove, away from Akali, hasn't been able to recreate those results. Let's see how Silas is looking in this all-important game number 3.
It all comes down to this. Who's going to take this big match? Let's find out. Fans, everybody's still here. All the seats sold out tonight. A very big day of League of Legends indeed. As once again, Ghost and Joker going to give their shot at Zyra Khan. They were undefeated 5-0-3-0 before this day, but now they're 5-1-3-1. As a little pause, as everything gets a little bit more orange on the Rift.
Dove and Summit fans in the audience. Seems like there's an issue with Dread, and yes, just some Dread frame drop issues, so hopefully that can be very easily fixed on the side here. Want to keep you at maximum FPS. I assume not everyone plays at the same FPS, right? Because some people will be used to the 60 and not go for the 120, 144.
I guess so. I think I have it on unlimited. That's Cloud Templar.
Seems to be really into the Afreeca Freecs.
Oh. Yeah, it says
and you can see a Mumu. You can see a Mumu on his shoulder there.
Yeah.
I like to
There's always a Mumu somewhere in there.
I like to think that the devil on your shoulder is the Amumu on your shoulder for Cloud Templar, because he's always trying to fit Amumu into pro games. Whenever he talks to junglers, I've seen him just recommend Amumu, which, you know, I feel like that's not the best look.
That said Sandbox World Class. They're trying to make a case for themselves to make it into Worlds.
Want to go into GodFleek mode on this particular sign. Thank you very much to our producer for helping us with some of the translations here. As OnFleek is deep in thought, jungle pathing is something that's so important in these games. If we had the drafts up, I'd talk about some of the matchups here. I think it'd actually be really nice on the red side. The newbie to LoL Park in the audience.
Yeah, seems like her friend brought her down.
We brought the Australian Embassy out yesterday, so there's been a couple of LoL newbies around this week. One of the Embassy staff was a Lapsed League of Legends fan who reached out to me and kind of coordinated all of that, so there was at least one pseudo-expert there. Is that a typhoon?
I'm a sandstorm.
Oh, it's, I get it. Okay. There we go. Wait, what does that sound? Should I know that?
You should, actually.
Oh, whoops.
Really? You don't know?
No, not off the top of my head.
You know, there's the meme where it's like somebody asks, "What's the name of the song?" and then everybody just
Oh,
says,
Darude
Sandstorm. Yeah.
I don't think you actually hummed it that well.
That's the beginning.
I feel like it's not exactly like that.
That's exactly how it is.
I think it needs more bass. You're not giving me enough bass in your
Sorry.
singing.
Yeah. Not the best beatboxer here. Apparently, we're rebooting the PC.
Oh, that gives us a bit of time to lay back a little bit and take the lay of the land, like we mentioned. Full up here, 7 p.m. or so on a Friday night. People canceling their plans to come down to LoL Park. We appreciate it.
So many fan signs down here.
Whoa, Ucal, what happened with your hair?
It's
a disaster.
Reaching new levels, new heights. I'm gonna give that a C+.
Oh, that's not very good.
Yeah,
that's basically a pass.
It's passing, but I feel like there was a little bit too much done to it. Low standards, and Papa, please hug me.
Wow, the analyst's getting a lot of love from these fans. Sorry, Valdez.
No, it's okay.
Your Valdez chance is expired.
Good. Maybe next. There's always tomorrow.
In my head, this says I'm with Griffin, but that's not, I assume, what the sign says. I came with my Afreeca fan. I'm a Griffin fan. There you go. So,
well,
a Griffin fan in hiding next to her
hopefully she
Afreeca
bought
fan
tickets
friend.
For the whole day.
Whoa! It's BBQ Oliver Scalia.
I'll cry if they lose today.
Is that some sad Pengoose?
And I just love LCK chicken.
Well, we don't have LCK free chicken anymore. Remember those days, Valdez?
Those are the best.
BBQ come back, or at least sponsor the league.
And it was so bad, too, because you were on a diet.
I was.
You could never join in, but me and all the guys and gals all over at SPO, we'd have these cups
good
of
news.
chicken.
It happened at OGN
they
as
gave
well.
us the vat of chicken as well, fried chicken up at for the staff. It was like unlimited, basically.
Good thing about me is,
I'm pretty hungry right now.
I have really strong willpower. So if I decide I'm not going to do something, I don't do it.
And you never did. I don't think you even ate one piece of chicken.
No, not after I started my diet.
I tried to get you to eat at least one piece, many different times. You just always said no. Your resolve is admirable.
Again, I'm not like that about everything, but if I've decided, if I have resolved to do something, then yes, I am able to stay like that. As we're going to continue going all around. First LCK experience in 7 years. Wow. 2013, 2012 days. That would have been back in Yongsan, the old OGN studio.
Back with OG caster Valdez.
In
2012.
You could have been there on that match day. It's
Me
possible.
and that guy could have been in the same building before.
There you go.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you would have been in that experience at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about Yongsan. So, in case you guys don't know, Yongsan's one of the big central rail hubs in Korea. There's a very famous train station below it. That's where we used to play our games, on the top of a mall. Floor 9, I think? It was like right up in the sky.
Yep.
On the 9th floor, right outside, right inside there's outdoor soccer field near there. So we've come a long way since then. We moved to Sangam, which is where the OGN Stadium is, Gangnam, which is where the SPO TV Stadium is, and now we're in City Hall for LoL Park. Dread hadn't skilled there. I thought he might have failed a body slam, but that was just movement.
He's not ready to decide here, as the ward is going to be swept out. Very common to see the sweeper early from the support, and maybe even from the junglers.
And back on the red side, Sandbox don't want to have a level 1 that really set Afreeca into shooting into the stratosphere. with that kill onto OnFleek on the invade. So, much more shallow wards this time, no advanced buff knowledge, as Senan's second Leona game, you noted it already, could have gone this way against Irakan in game number 1, but stuck with his tried and tested Nautilus in that particular game.
Nautilus looked good in game number 1. Game 2, not quite able to do as much. We mentioned how both Ghost and Joker took a loss on their Irakan, so no longer undefeated. Afreeca hoping to repeat that performance, as will be the AD cannon up in the top side.
We should talk about the lanes, because if you think about how Sylas was changed to have a magic damage shield and how Ryze doesn't have on-command CC like before, only has the slow on the W, there's not a lot of damage coming out of Ryze early, so the shield should get a lot of value here. Level 1 is a little bit more of a struggle, but this should be a pretty comfortable lane for Dove. Doesn't want to opt into too much trading against a level 2 opponent. So actually, you're kind of fine with Dove in the mid lane. And then top lane, Jace used to be a hard counter to AP cannon. Probably going to be fine against AD cannon largely, so definitely some draft spots here as Dove's taking a lot of autos. They're actually what's separating these trades.
Yeah, just down to the wire. It's always very important to know exactly what the cooldowns are, as we're really getting the action going here in this game.
We're testing limits, Valdez.
There's a lot more action and aggression in these mid lanes, as Dread, he's picked up his boots, he's got Predator.
Really early back, too, going for.
That's that old back, you know, the bottom side where you clear the 3 camps and you pick up the boots for Predator.
Don't see it as much anymore because people started expecting it, but sometimes you next level by just walking in a straight line to dodge a skill shot, and that's the same here. But going for a full bot cycle. Remember, it wasn't scouted with any advanced wards, so there is still that lingering doubt, and Predator will be available for the spawn of the Scuttlecraft.
Is this a new Kai'Sa skin?
I think you're probably... Is it
it's
arcade?
It's very colorful.
Might be arcade Kai'Sa.
Looks pretty cool. I like the colorful butterfly on the minion that you're attacking, as Ucal really putting the hurt down onto Dove.
That was the empowered route that time, so was able to actually get it down. I think Ryze will creep up again. I think MSI Ryze will be back. I think Ryze is pretty good right now, but kind of has to be mid, because of the no shields means you just die a lot when you get ganked, rather than multiple shields and a phase rush getting you away. Yep, Arcade Kai'Sa on the bot side. And this lane, you definitely, in this case, want to go the Manamune build, get 100 AD, and then if Leona latches with that CC and that burst, people die real fast.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty intense once we do get down to it.
And I guess against the Feathers, Leona's damage reduction will be quite powerful, right? Because they do 50% AD rather than full AD, so even in that case, you might get quite a lot of value out of the changes to Leona's kit on the recent patches.
Mid and jungle, moving in to get down a very early control ward in the enemy jungle, as well as 2 normal wards. Thinking about some kind of play here, as finally things will go down. They spot OnFleek and Dove in the jungle.
Predator popped, but a little bit optimistic here, I would say, from Dread, re-invading his own jungle. No one's catch. They hoped someone was around. In terms of where the game is going, my read on the comps here is I like Sandbox front to back. I think they're a little bit stronger there. But Afreeca, they've got ability to create disarray. Think of Realm War. Think of the Gragas cast splitting a team. And then focusing on one member, they have really good burst damage. So I think Afreeca have to be more creative, but they have great engage tools. Meanwhile, Sandbox have the engage, but if it just becomes 5v5 in vision, I give them the slight lead here, but definitely not an overall.
Joker level 4 is in the mid lane. Really trying to see what they can get here and maybe go for a counter gank, but Gragas, they should know, is down on the bottom side as they ping that immediately. They saw him do the Raptors and move down there, so that's definitely why. And that means that they're going to start up this Infernal Drake earlier than Afreeca would expect. Let's see if Dread even checks it here.
So aiming on a recall is why they're doing it. Taking a while, but enough procs of the permafrost. They're going to get through it. Nicely done. Creative timing. 3-6 minutes. First Infernal goes down. We've just had the most Infernals today.
Yeah, it's a fiery day, and it's blazing hot in Seoul nowadays. Very humid as well.
I saw on Twitter, did you bike to work today? Or was that a recent biking expedition?
I did that yesterday, but uploaded it today. Yeah, I got a couple of responses that were like, it's burning outside, what are you doing?
No, I was actually concerned for a very selfish reason. I was like, you're going to be stinky today. I don't want to deal with that.
Well, you know.
We have to be in quite close proximity here. And
you don't have to bite to be stinky, that's the thing.
I mean, yes, but...
Thankfully, most of our casters here are very hygienic and, you know.
And I'm sure everyone at home, you know, Twitch chat is also suiting up, having a shower beforehand, shaving before they watch the
Oh, absolutely. That's what I do when I watch, too. Aiming getting in here, as Senan took a whole lot of damage, but just Ignite situated, actually. For that one, as we're level 6 in the mid lane, and we're killing a cannon. For some reason, we just really want to get that guy down. Not the cannon, actually, the Jace, but we're killing Summit, and they were able to get their goal with a very quick rotation.
Yeah, the context was lost a bit because we didn't have the cam on, but you see Realm Warp was used, and we talked about how to win this game, they're going to have to modify battlefields and be creative. Seems like they're off to a nice start on that one, Valdez. I think largely Afreeca win this via catch and via jumping between lanes. As there are the assist pings, they dive in, one CC leads to another. Very nicely done by Afreeca Freecs.
That's a cool little play. That's even something you could get going in solo queue. Just ping a lot is my advice. But,
yeah, but then you're playing Rise in solo queue. That's not always the right choice.
That's true. Although I did say, I mean, there have been a little bit more after the changes that do allow him to be a little bit more.
I feel like Rise and 80 Cannon is the auto-lose solo queue duo.
Oh, yeah.
Of like, well, this isn't going to work.
Or like, recently, Tristana 80 top. It's like, people are like, I can play her in any solo lane, and I've never played 80 carry in my life. But it's popular, and I saw FLICKR do it, so I could probably do it.
They take Ignite against a TP GP and get solo killed, and you're like, what?
Yes. Exactly.
How does that even look?
They dive in, and speaking of which, we're diving onto Senan. There's that burst damage as, oh boy, from downtown, the Kobe from the side of Dread is going to put down that Rakan as one-on-one here in the mid lane. Ucal should be just fine.
That's the Leona interaction. They pick up the kill. Killer Instinct has long been available. Level 7 actually aiming on that plays. They pick it up, and two nice picks here for Afreeca. They need to keep up this tempo. Dove caught him mid. Whoa, okay.
Okay. Looks like he's not able to land that body slam, and a counter cask from the side of Dove. It's going to show him who the true winner there is, as nice little pickup. It didn't look like Senan was level 6, but really able to join the fight as Gragas just died too fast.
Dread was just too kind of bloodlust about the play. I think I'm pretty almost certain that they saw OnFleek on the ward because they had a ward over. It could have been placed afterwards, but I believe it's spotted. Let's watch the replay. We'll start way back when on cool Leona interactions. They get the start of the play here, and even with all that mobility, gets sniped down. Aiming's actually a little bit sad that he wasn't able to pick up that kill. But from there, let's move towards the mid lane. Yeah, the ward was already there. So OnFleek and Dread were skirmishing. They knew OnFleek was there, but they just assumed they could get the instant burst. Too easy for OnFleek, and this Kingslayer's heal was going to make this either a one rotation or a one skirmish for Sandbox.
Yeah, you could see what he was doing there. He was just reaching for the body slam and flash, but a little bit too bloodthirsty, as you mentioned, so got a bit ahead of himself. Either way, he's going to be able to pick up his jungle item. Clear and the stopwatch, actually both junglers with the same items.
We're starting to see why 80 Cannon is finding some stability in lane. It's a lot about early itemization. You're going into some flat pen on the side of the Jace, going into the lethality. Meanwhile, it's, you know, Bilgewater versus Dirk are very, very different items in what they do. So Kiin has been able to hold his TP, and Summit actually has to go the long way here.
Dove went a little bit too far, but actually juked away from Ucal, who placed that Realm Warp too far to the left. OnFleek with his ultimate about to come off cooldown. Wasn't ready just yet, just came off now. And Jace didn't have TP, which is part of the reason they were starting that.
But what we're getting to is if Jace decides to group, yes, a lot of squishies, a lot of damage out of the EQ, but for the extended laning trade, big advantage is all goes wide.
He was on a ward there, but Kiin is not one to just sit in the shop. He knows that that is possible.
The bot lane So the kill involvement, but nothing really else to separate. About 10 CS lead here between the duos. This is going to be a Stormrazor game, so not going to be the man immune like we mentioned. And now Summer's like, but I just got here.
I don't have teleport. What do you mean I have to run all the way back? And even more importantly, that could be a Rift Herald that goes down on time. As, okay, slicing Maelstrom in the mid lane here from Dove, but Ucal has to flash away from that one. You could try to set up a return to that with Sejuani, but no ultimate available.
Reminder that he will be the only AP user that's going to be able to use Slicing Maelstrom this game, so it might actually be a pick. We'll see a couple of times. Onto the Rift Herald. It's getting low in health. There will be no more eye, but it seems like OnFleek just doesn't have any priority to go near it.
Yeah, no ultimate, no real help. You saw the bit of a rotation, too, from the bottom side of Afreeca. They really wanted to secure this one. Not going to use it right away. They do have a nice little lead here. Good denial there, actually, by aiming. So we'll see exactly when Dread decides to use that as he's heading towards the bot side.
Another game where Dread has been ahead of the play and OnFleek was there for the counter gank in mid, but that was almost gifted to him because it was too aggressive from Dread. So far, Dread has really controlled the pace of the game, and OnFleek hasn't really been able to find anything from the red side. Seems like he was able to sneak in there. Wasn't 100% clear on the vision lines, but it seems like he was fine.
We do have that Glacier Prison, but no commitment, actually. They just decide against it. As Dread down on the bottom side here, still waiting on that Rift Herald.
Surprised to see Stormrazor pick up. It's less burst, but I guess he looks at the rest of his teammates who have a lot of burst and wants to use kind of the Slicing Maelstrom time or the CC time to dart in and out with the E evolve that will come a lot earlier when you drop the man immune. So preference choice, and we see both from most AD carries, and that's been aiming's choice here. Here's the engage attempt. Joker optimistic.
Oh boy, he's really trying to force that one. I know how it feels when the enemy jungler has that Rift Herald, but Dread just gonna say, okay, I mean, you want to use all that to try to get me, I'll just come all the way back into the lane. Let's see if they can delay it though here. We got 25 seconds. But I think this Rift Herald should get a charge off and some nice juicy plates for that bottom lane.
Definitely felt like an old man Rakan ultimate, which is a weird thing to say. OnFleek trying to join here, but the charge comes in, and actually aiming was able to juggle the lines there and was the only one to pick up gold.
Ucal still so tanky. I mean, just take a look at his items. You can get a full rotation from the Silas. You don't really seem to care as you push it super fast. You've got a lot of mana, Merc Treads, Catalyst. You're not going anywhere.
Afreeca looking for an answering Drake with a newfound presence. Fortunately, it is the ocean. Rise and aiming will appreciate this, but it certainly doesn't give the ever-present value of the Infernal. Down, and yeah, only turret plates the game have been from Afreeca Freecs. As so far they've found nice leads in their side lanes.
It's feeling good so far, and this is kind of what you would expect from a Game 3. After Games 1 and 2 were one-sided to either side, I feel like this one should be a much closer game. And is feeling like that for now, although Sandbox are in a bit of a hole. We'll see exactly what OnFleek can do. He was kind of bullied in game number 1, was able to come back with the Xinjiao in game number 2. But so far on the Sejuani hasn't been too effective in this game.
Does feel like they have the ability to hang back and then trust in good team fighting. May not be guaranteed, but I can understand the theory. Gonna get a demolished proc in as Joker. As Dread's back top side. He's definitely had the run of the jungle over the series.
Oh, baited him in there. The question is, can they get the kill? Dread reaching for it, but not quite able to, as Kiin's got to be careful here. Not quite gonna land. Summit gets away alive.
And he just TP'd back!
I know, it's so sad. Poor Summit this whole series. This is being bullied every single time.
It is legitimate bullies.
He's gonna kill him anyway. Doesn't matter if the flash doesn't work, as it pays off in dividends.
Well, that one definitely turns it around. Walked up, was too bold, and dies from it. They're gonna feel great about that one, even after the flash shorted. Ucal pushes in mid, but they need these kills, the guerrilla warfare to get the kills and the smaller skirmishes. While it's only 3-1, the 2,500 gold, and that's been the magic number between 10 and 20 minutes.
Whoever gets that lead holds on to it for what we've seen so far.
Get him on fleek.
Yeah, nobody's really going to touch that cannon. Already with Play of the Rune King completed as, okay, nice dodge by Dove as flashing in gets denied by the Proto.
I really want to listen in where Dove says back to Nautilus to Senan. Alongside the famous back to Lissandra, the caps called against Jensen back at MSI.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not a replay of that play. It's going to be this play that Summer didn't die on. The Cask was never going to kill here, not in kill range from 300 health that early on Dread.
Close to knocking him back, though.
But he just TP'd in, and if you're Dread, you have a pretty good idea that Summer's not going to back, right? Because you don't want to fully back again. Walks up for an auto that does condemn him to death.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if he was trying to land the body slam. He just wanted to get in range to plop down his two big fists and get that extra damage in for the kill.
Well, he didn't not want to land.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying.
He's not trying to fist, but you know. Knew he could get the kill as pressed the attack. Going to be procced here. Kiin.
Summer, you need to not go for these extended trades. You got a burst trade build against lifesteal. Don't do it.
Yeah. Can't even right now with Summit. He's definitely feeling the hurt in this game. 0-2. As I was touting him for being in better form nowadays compared to Kiin, but that has not been the case. That's not the story this series. As Dread really trying to push him away, but has he gotten too confident here? Has the stopwatch and a bunch of allies. Joker's going to be the first one to go down, and Dread baits them all into this one. Kiin against Ghost, aiming against Dove. Dove is going to go down, Ghost has to flash, and Afreeca are going to get a big lead.
Now that is the Bazinga stopwatch that ultra debates the entire team of Sandbox. These Rakan ultimates, who many different creative ways, aren't coming off. These skirmishes, that mobility, we talked about being creative, and Afreeca are sticking the landing in the first 20 minutes.
Gotta love it. Knew exactly what he was doing, just running straight at OnFleek, and just baited him in. You know, the Realm Warp plus TP immediate. As Afreeca, the set play is good. They are just able to get them into this one.
Because it's so much posturing at the start, and you just think nothing's going to happen, and then the call is, let's make the kill. But think of the value here. It buys time for the Realm Warp. First kill is on to Joker because he doesn't get that kill and can't get out after initiating, and they take the free kill on Dove on the back end here. So big for Afreeca. They need this, given where we expect this game to go in terms of the 5v5. Keep it up. So right now, Afreeca Freecs, they're the team that's one series behind, remember. They actually bring Sandbox to their level. Both teams will be 10 and 6 if Afreeca Freecs pick up the victory.
Exactly. It gets a seat at the table once again on the west side of the standings for Afreeca. It could mean some doom for Sandbox if they don't win some of their extra games at the end of this season.
Let's live in a world where the victory goes the way of Afreeca. Let's look at their remaining schedule as we have a bit of time here. So after the Sandbox game, they have Genji. That's a hard one for Afreeca Freecs. We'll see how they do in our second series. Big series against Griffin, in case you guys weren't aware of today's schedule. Then Humble Life, which is very winnable. So you kind of pencil them in for one more win at least. That's pretty good when it comes to playoffs calculations.
11-7, I mean, that's
playoffs.
Absolutely playoffs.
Yeah, 11, I don't believe a team has ever missed playoffs with 11 match wins. The lowest we've seen is 9 for playoffs, but 10 was usually the number. 11 always gets you in. Yeah. So that's pretty much there. So sounding pretty good then.
As long as they can
Afreeca.
close this one out.
Meanwhile, Sandbox remaining games. SKT, that's looking hard.
Oh.
But they have KT. So they also, that's one of the reasons I had them high, is because they had the KT series, and they came in against an Afreeca who can be up and down. So here's an engage.
All right, aiming quick to get out of that one. OnFleek is going to gain that summoner, but we're trying to just bully Ghost down here. He's going to go into that Feather Storm. The last auto, not quite enough damage, as Ghost, even without Flash, is able to get out with his life.
Man, Joker has found nothing on this Rakan. It's been harsh to try to watch him through multiple different means. TP to top side, Dove didn't join. He had TP, but chose not to join, so Ocean goes down. All right, we got a timer, 26 minutes. Infernal Drake Freecker cannot allow Sandbox to pick up a second one with a scaling call.
Got to be really careful about that one. You get a couple of Infernals, and all of a sudden you're right back in the game.
Struggle here is that Sandbox, you look at where the items are at, even though it's Rise and you're baited into thinking scaling, 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 and you see 4-stack Rod of Ages, 6 minutes to get that going. The Seraph's not done. I still actually take the itemization here for Afreeca because it's Rage Blade and Storm Razor already done. This Kai'Sa's super online, already in the game with 2 evolves complete. Meanwhile, Ghost is behind on his second item, so power level-wise, I actually love where Afreeca's at. Sandbox need a steadier. A couple of picks, some ways to delay the game. They can get this second Infernal. It would be such a bridge back into game number 3.
Absolutely. We could have one of those 40-minute games even, if it does come down to that. It does feel like everybody's taking it a little bit slower as well, but as I say that, Sandbox looking for the play here in the mid lane, and see you later, Kai'Sa. That was real quick. Didn't waste any time on that one, as they knew she did not have her flash from earlier on. It was easily able to pick up that kill.
Nicely done, nice angle there. Reminiscent of what we've seen from Afreeca so far in this series. Get the catch on aiming, who doesn't have cleanse and doesn't have a QSS. That was the sort of pick we were alluding to about it. That buys some time here for Sandbox Gaming. Again, we should be clear. It seems easier to execute in team fights for Sandbox. It seems like they should be able to get over the line and fight front to back, but that doesn't mean they have true outscale. It's just, especially after early game has gone the way it has, the best way back for the side of Sandbox Gaming. Here's the replay. Nicely done by OnFleek. At the same time as Dove was able to hit that max range chain.
Yeah, and by the way, you'll notice he didn't go for any kind of Arctic Assault, he went for the straight flash, right? It's he's not wasting any time. I see that sometimes in solo queue people trying to save their flash, but at this highest level, you know, they want to 100% get the kill, and you can do that by burning your flash.
Arctic Assault has a travel time, Flash does not. There's the difference between the two abilities when it comes to reaction times at the highest level, like you're alluding to, Valdez. They showed due respect for aiming, who's been in very good form in recent weeks. It's a bit of a steadier, but doesn't close the gold lead, around 3,000. Game was largely decided for Afreeca, though. What was it, 26, 28 minutes, game number 1? We're already 23 minutes in, and Afreeca do not have a game-winning lead.
All right, another one in here, but that's going to land on a Dread. Interesting Leona ult, just to try to save some lives if necessary, but everybody was getting out of there.
And Dread ended up buffering the Sejuani ultimate, as there's another Leona ult.
Dove's got a couple that are quite good, actually. You think about it, as they're zoning everybody out on the left side here. Sandbox is going to get a turret here.
80 cannon, so even if he's there for a flank, you're not as respectful of it. Nice moment from Sandbox. The Leona ult steal got them a mid lane turret. You'll definitely take that if you're Sandbox.
And it's bit by bit to get back in this game. They closed that, 4,000 gold lead that was hanging around to about 2,000 here. Makes the possibility of getting this Infernal even higher every single time you get one of those things.
Yeah, the gold lead, we saw kind of steady upwards grass for game 1 and 2 for each team. Afreeca had to be feeling good. They're on the blue side. 5-0 between these two teams on blue side so far in summer season. Sandbox is steadying. That kill on aiming was really important for them. This is all while 10-stack Rod of Ages Seraph's Rise is about to show up and do incredible damage.
Oh boy. Dread, where are you going, buddy? They didn't know he was on a ward. They want to get this kill on a summon first, but they can't even do that, and the double knockup comes through from Joker. Finally makes that Rakan work. Was able to canal them into the corner, and that's 2 kills, 30 seconds before the Inferno.
Afreeca didn't have the vision to make that play. They're too bold, they're too confident. They get taken down after Dread wrapped around. 2 kills, including the smite, while Baron's available.
Are they going Baron here?
Infernal spawning soon. They want the Baron, it seems like. It's risky.
They got the
does
jungler.
Huge damage, and so does aiming.
Yes, they do. It's 5-on-3, though. And already taking a big chunk from Summit. Is aiming and Senan here.
They can use the Realm Warp to check.
Let's see what they can do here. Already getting pretty low, trying to get some wards down, but double control ward. Trying to poke them down. In goes Senan, but that Glacial Prison straight onto the Rise, and they're able to burst him down. There's not much that aiming can do. Senan, though, buying some time. We got a TP coming in now. Joker's getting pretty low. Aiming's able to survive. Kiin's here now, but he's going 1v5, and he's going to get popped. And that's the Baron going to Sandbox, as Afreeca are not able to show up here. Dread now going to get realm warped on by the Silence, actually, but does get away. But that is a huge Baron going the way of Sandbox.
And that might just take the series there, Valdez. They play it so smartly, and Afreeca all-ins when the Baron is healthy enough that they can still take a 5v5 or 5v3 as it was, and not worry about the Baron randomly being taken into Carnage. It's a wraparound under inner turret gank when they don't have ward supremacy or any points of pressure on the map. That is just a macro mistake that Afreeca have been prone to with the young lineup. And then watch when the turn can happen. It's when the Baron is at 4,000, falls to 3,000 as they engage. So actually, there is no clench moment about whether the Baron might be stolen by a random skill shot. It's in safe range. Kiin dives in and instantly gets popped. Such is AD Kennen forced to group.
It's not the game you want to have if you are Kiin here. You would love to be pushing side lanes and pressuring, but Sandbox has been able to force a couple of picks. They get a second Infernal Drake. They're now ahead by 2,500 gold with the Baron buff. Sandbox immediately put on a masterclass of how to get back in the game here in the span of 5 minutes. Now they're going pretty deep, though, as the cast is going to come out, but they got AoE damage in spades out of that Jace, and even Ghost going to line up the feathers, and nobody from Afreeca can stand up to that.
This is what we were alluding to. How do Afreeca fight against this front line when they've got AD Kennen and a lot of burst damage, but not a lot of tankiness, not a lot of front line? It's an AP Gragas, of course. Sandbox won't be able to break the base just yet, but Silas, in the meanwhile, these are the fundamentals that Sandbox have had. Their shot calling is usually very good in this scenario, trying to create multiple points of power. Buff stolen, but now the base stays true.
Bait him into covering the middle as they rotate down, and, well, we're trying to kill a Silas. That's going to be incredible.
What are you doing?
That is so desperate at this point in the game, and it is absolutely not going to work. Nice try, but that's all I'm going to give you, as Inhibitor does go down and Sandbox take a bigger lead.
No fade. We have to check to see if his hair is still there. If it was me, I'd be ripping my hair out at this moment, because the minions moved at different speeds. There was just a wave prepped and ready to go on the bot side when everyone was already there. Calling that a whoopsie would be underrated. That's just bad, unfortunately. Thought they had time to all in, but they didn't, with the Baron buff minions being pushed at a faster speed. Now their base is broken, the two Infernals down, and Afreeca Freecs might be 2 series out from Sandbox, and maybe too far out from playoff calculation.
With it being this competitive, you might be able to say that, you know, going 10-8 might not be good enough.
It doesn't look like it, right? It seems 11 is the number.
Yeah. They haven't even made it to 10-8 yet, you know? They still got to get through some of those teams. You mentioned Homolite, but they will be favored in that matchup, but can they make it with 10-8? Is the real question.
You need Griffin to embarrass Gen G and put them in a bad mental space to be confident as a Afreeca fan.
Yeah, and then Afreeca go up against Gen G and somehow win that one. But let's see how Sandbox do close this one out, as they don't have Baron buff anymore, and a pretty good amount of wave clear is going to be enough here for Afreeca. So just the bottom Inhibitor goes down.
Still, kind of a job done for Sandbox. They've actually got their first gold lead of the game, a meaningful one here, which shows they're in a great spot. And now you look at Afreeca's champions, and if you try that creative play and it gets slammed down like the last one, you lose a second Inhibitor turret. If you dive in there with AD Kennen, Ryze, Leona, do you kill anyone? Maybe not. When Sandbox is starting to get a lot of base stats and itemization done. So the sort of creative plays that got them their leads in the laning phase allowed them to out-rotate. Right now, hold a lot less value, and if a second Baron comes down, I think Afreeca will soon follow it with the Baron respawning in a minute and a half.
Nobody's going to be fighting over that Cloud Drake, that's for sure. We might see Sandbox take it to get the Elder spawn, but that's just about it, as we're looking for picks here. Summit checking the brush, but not actually where they were. We're trying to dive now onto Leona. Do they have the damage? Senan looking to turn it around. Now he's going to land it on the 2, actually. But Dove coming in from the left side. You got a little bit late to this one. As in goes Dove, is able to zone out 3 members just by himself. But Afreeca is able to get away from that one. Kind of a mysterious cast there from Dread as he considers going back in, but it's not going to happen.
A lot of hearts and mouths, both with the players and the fans watching on, as that could have been the deciding team fight. Look at the collateral damage. Flash down on Dove, flash down on Senan and Dread after the play, and Rise still waiting. Still going to be a pressure game, and that's a lot of summoners to be down from Afreeca when they should be Baron control wards being put down by Sandbox very short.
I mean, it doesn't really hurt Sandbox too much. You know, they get a bunch of flashes out right before they go over to start the Baron.
Now, they actually reset Sandbox, and do notice that they actually have a lot of items clogging inventories. No control wards possible from mid and AD carry that just reset. 2 down from the Rakan, so it's probably going to be imperfect vision here from Sandbox. They need to get a fight then. It's not going to be a Baron from pressure with only 2 control wards.
Sandbox moving in as a team. Afreeca gonna start it here as Ucal not able to get there just yet. He doesn't have Realm Warp. Sandbox coming on in 5v4 as everybody's so low, and Dove goes in with that ultimate, but it's not gonna be enough here as Sandbox way too far ahead. Ucal is gonna go down. Is not gonna be able to use that Realm Warp to get to safety here as Afreeca, a bit of desperation at the end of it all, as maybe Dread gets away. That would be just it, as Sandbox are looking to end this game.
Look to follow the mini wave on bot side. Inhibitor respawns in 40 seconds. That should be enough time to close the game. That's going to be the call here. The call to end.
Yeah, they're coming on in here as a team. 4-on-1. Dread, unfortunately, had a good early game, but wasn't really able to get much afterwards, as middle and late game was not enough. Not enough, certainly, to stop this one. We got Senan coming back here as the respawn of the inhibitor a little bit too late. They're just going to be able to taunt up Senan and take down the Nexus, as Sandbox are going to win this series 2-1.
Almost famous last words there. We got the early zoom out, and it wasn't quite the last hit, but the observer was right. Sandbox just about take it against Afreeca Freecs. The red side curse is broken. They win 6th game on red side after 5 in a row on blue. And Sandbox Gaming make a giant leap. This is not a half step. This is a leap to playoffs. 11 match wins. Has never been kept out of the playoffs, so big win for them. Meanwhile, Afreeca can only reach 11 if they win 2 matches in a row, one of those against Inform Gen G.
It's not an easy road after you lose this one. No doubt both of these teams prepared immensely for this matchup, but Sandbox end up on top. Kind of what you and I were expecting coming into this one, but it was a hard-fought series both ways. Shout out to Afreeca for giving it their all, but that could mean the difference between making it into playoffs and waiting for next year.
And in the end, even though there was so much other action, after game 1, LS was looking for Savant because he trusted in Afreeca's mechanics, and they were actually on point in terms of the gameplay in game number 1, and were really smart about how they played it out. That we were all having a lot of self-doubt, but amazingly, if you didn't watch the series and you wonder how Sandbox were able to close it out, it was Afreeca making those young team mistakes of trying a really bold pick play, the sort of pick plays that got them their lead in game number 3, but an inappropriate time, and then Sandbox making the right macro call to keep pushing down bot lane. So it did play into the core tendencies of the 2 teams, but there wasn't that much to pick between the 2. Turns out that this late in the season, even that small difference could be the difference between playoffs and not.
The poise just a bit better on the side of Sandbox, as OnFleek, he looks a bit exhausted after that series. That's the word I would use. Very hard fought over the course of about 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Yeah, 2.5. It's 7:30 here, so
yeah,
we'll be a little bit behind on our second series, but not much. Definitely the action carried forward. Really entertaining series. I don't think this Sandbox is good enough to make any real inroads in the best of fives. Like, they were competitive against Afreeca, but they weren't able to slam them down. And when you have 7 teams that are competitive, not being able to really open up space, asks more questions, poses more questions than maybe gives you answers when it comes to the race for the top 3.
Sandbox looking to push into that top 3. We'll see if they can do it. That was a nice little appetizer.
Oh, yeah.
Pop up before we do get into our second match of the night. Gen.G up against Griffin, always a banger, always a lot of fun, and we're thinking that this one should be even more just because of everything that's on the line and Gen.G's recent performance.
And we got the one different player, Doran, coming in. He's never played in the Griffin versus Gen.G series, so that could be a whole new dimension because QV popping off last time. There's a big reason that it could be a 2-0 for Gen.G, who've been the bogey team for Griffin, especially in regular season, but also gatekeeping them out of Worlds last year, famously in a best of 5. But we'll zoom in on the last bits of business for our first series. Gonna see who picks up the MVP of this one, and then close out the action with an interview. All the interviews in the last 2 weeks are super interesting because the ramifications of any one match are way bigger, both for the team involved and for the teams around them.
Yeah, you know, the matches at the beginning of the season matter just as much as the ones at the end of the season.
But you realize it late in the season.
You realize it at the end because you know what the stakes actually are once you get there. So it's kind of interesting.
And every team, right, Valdez, has had those losing streaks and dropped those games where in the moment you're like, next one.
Yeah.
But at the end, you're like, what if, right?
Didn't Afreeca lose that one game to Jinair? Or had some trouble against them?
They definitely had trouble. It might still have been a 2-0 because Sunshine.
Yeah, it was a 2-0.
It was a weak 2-0, but not the sort of thing you'll be ruminating about.
They lost to KT.
Yeah,
that was it, 2-1.
And you're going to be looking back at that and kicking yourself if you're Afreeca Freecs. What you can say, and what they won't be able to hear now, is that whatever the result, Afreeca will be able to look and say, holy moly, we were way better in summer, and we're starting to build something with our young squad. Won't we look good in 2020? So we're hoping that a lot of roster change is going to come out of Afreeca, but will that be enough to make playoffs in this competitive and LCK Summer? Ultimately, after this loss, they don't really hold their fate in their hands. So, yeah, it's a may very well.
Gotta love that stopwatch play from Dread. He's probably feeling pretty tilted after this one. Had a great early game. That's why junglers buy stopwatch, especially engaged junglers, after their first jungle item. It's just so good, especially in Pro.
Well, you're a playmaker, right?
It could just be one fight that makes a huge difference in the early game, too, and the stopwatch is probably the most bang for your buck for 600 gold rather than like a ruby crystal or something like that. So take notes, guys, if you're a engaged jungler yourself. As, yeah, I mean, just a couple of mistakes after that, and Sandbox really flipped the tables real quick onto Afreeca.
The reactive gameplay ended up being enough in game number 3. And they'll be feeling good about that. I still think they need to do some more developing if they're actually going to win a best of 5 in the postseason. Seeing the comms here for the Baron play. At this point, a lot of the scaling has been done.
Starting that one up. Yeah, early game was a little bit spotty for him, but eventually he woke up from his nap, did a bunch of screaming, as he was really happy about this win.
He had probably the worst first 15 minutes of a Rakan we've seen in a long time. Like you say, didn't turn it around. If you think about it though, honestly, the turning point of the game largely was in the top lane, right? Or in the bottom lane, I guess, from a Sandbox perspective, where the overdive from Dread, where Rakan was in position to pick up those 2 kills, actually had a big blow-on effect for Sandbox, getting some positioning on the map, and eventually picking up the kills and closing the game.
Apparently, Joker was screaming, catch him, kill him, to the Gragas. They wanted to get that last kill to secure the win.
I feel like out of context Joker could be a really good Twitter account. Talking about stuff my dad said.
Yeah.
I think it was called something different. Yeah, he had to censor on the broadcast.
And, well, that was a little bit close, actually, to stopwatch before the last auto.
So I'm waiting for a translation on Joker's last comment. I believe he said nice.
Yeah. Thank you, translators, for that help. Shout out to you guys doing the hard work as, well, that was a lot of damage from the Jace, although I don't feel like Summit was the reason they won this game.
It was a troubling lane phase. Kiin definitely had a big lead there with his on-hit build, but it really was a story of the game until Baron and the Baron. Because the Baron suddenly, on-hit cannon can't split push with the same priority. Suddenly the team fight tools were creative, but one mistake with the Realm Warp and then they were kind of inferior tools. Sandbox gets over the line. It was a long story, a fun one to track. Now we're thinking about future business, but we got that last bit of business with the MVP, because that's another race that there ain't much breathing room in, Valdez.
Yeah, I mean, Canyon yesterday, the double MVP, he took sole first place with 8.
Yep.
So far, so Dove already picked up 1. I know we both voted for Dove for this one, a bit of a spoiler there, but we'll see if he does pick it up, as no, it's going to be OnFleek, who, I mean, 2-0-10, he had 92 kill participation and was an influence early on in the game.
Was dictated a little bit too early. I definitely think Dread had him at the start, but this play was the flash ult onto the mid lane. If that goes wide, and we saw a lot of missed Sejuani ults in this set, then I think you don't have some of the future plays. There was some clutch moments from Sandbox in general. I think OnFleek was the architect of a lot of them. This is a good Baron play where, honestly, my big mistake from Afreeca here, I didn't get to talk about it in-game, is why not use the... This time the Realm wasn't open, but in some of their Baron plays, they weren't as active around trying to make real zoning plays. That time they kind of funneled in, and speaking of funneling in, 600 to 800, but 3 Sandbox members.
And 2 down 1.
Poor Ghost and Joker, man. They ain't getting no MVPs.
I know.
That's 19, I think, between the 3. It might be actually 20, because it's 7, 7, 6, so 20.
Yeah.
Of what, like 28 game wins? Like, really not sharing very much.
Nope, they're just hoarding them all for themselves. As I'm going to hand it over to Jason, she's going to help with this translation.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Jason with the Universe Translation, and we'll be hearing from Dove OnFleek from Sandbox Gaming. Another 2-1 victory up against Afreeca. So today's Afreeca series, it was harder than we expected, and it was more important than we thought. So it's a big relief that we got this win. And in 2 days, it's the birthday of the owner of Sandbox, Todi. So I think this can be an early birthday gift for him. So I'm really happy. Do you kind of put it on your calendar? No, I just memorized all the things. So, game number 1, yes, Afreeca was really strong. So what kind of feedback went back and forth? Well, we did prepare, but we weren't actually able to execute it in game. So it was mainly about the mistakes, so we're just talking that we should get rid of our mistakes. So game number 2, as soon as Afreeca opened the Kali, you just took it right away. Well, you had also mentioned that after the Griffin's Akali game, you think it's a very good pick. Well, when I saw Jovi playing Akali, just overall everything looks really fine. The champion Akali itself is really strong, so after that match, we changed our minds, so we just started to blind pick Akali. So 2 Akali MVPs in a row. So let's take a look at the highlights of a Dragon teamfight. Well, Sinjao and Renekton was actually picked up in a very early phase. So, well, I tried to go for a flank TP, but the beginning of the team fight wasn't that clean. But as I just mentioned, the Kali is so strong right now, so even though we had a bad start, we were just able to kind of clean out the opponent. Yeah, even though you guys are outnumbered, you are actually able to turn the team fight around. So let's move on to game number 3, OnFleek. Your jungle competition up against Dread was really fierce. And all the 3 games you guys are playing all different champions. So what was the focal point of today's match in terms of jungle fights? Well, overall competitions and also jungle matchup. So, well, thinking of the matchup, I was planning all my jungling path setups and also Strad is really good at performance based on his mechanics, so I had to kind of be aware of that throughout the whole game. So game number 3 wasn't really that easy, but you guys were able to turn the game around with these team fights, so let's check out the replay. So this reminds me of your Xinjiao play in the previous game. You just like assassinated Varus last time on Xinjiao. But today I was playing a Sejuani, so I tried some different performance today. Is that the perfect spot for Sejuani? Yeah, it's ancient Asian culture. It's a perfect place, and it's really easy to hide. So that's the perfect spot, yes. So after taking down the Kaisa, you guys are able to seize all the way down to the mid lane. And the commentators mentioned that Sandbox is really good at objective controls. What's the biggest strength? We have a very vocal calls in bot lane. So whenever the opponent bot duos are recalling, well, we always go for the Drake. So I think that's why we are so strong in terms of objective controls. Well, thinking of the spring split, I think you guys can reach further this summer split. Any message for your fans? Well, obviously, thanks to their support, we were able to make it up here. So I just wanna say that all the credit goes to the fans, and we were able to do this all together. And I'll be looking forward to continued support from our fans. We're now in a kind of better situation to make it to the playoffs, so we're just going to do our best to pull off better performance and results. So I'll be looking forward to continued support. This will be the end of the interview with OnFleek from Sandbox Gaming, and I'm going to pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
No, thank you, Ji-sun, once again for the amazing translation. As it's good to hear from the happy boys over at Sandbox. They said it themselves. They are one step closer to making it into playoffs, and they should be able to get there. They're actually going to take first place right now, up with Dom1 Gaming, a same score for right now. Not sure about the head-to-head, but either way, got to be feeling good about first.
While it's not locked in, feels like Sandbox and Dom1 have done the hard work, at least put themselves in a great position to close things out. And we wonder, as you gesture, Valdez, do we have separation now? 9-7 with Genji versus Griffin, potentially pushing one of these teams to 11-5, and SKT knocking on that as well. There's a lot happening at the top, but it's possible we're going to see 2 teams on the outside and 5 teams starting to firmly stick their spot in playoffs, as we don't have a lot of a break before we get to our second series.
Yeah, should be just about a half hour, guys, maybe a little bit longer, but either way, we'll be back for the next one, Genji versus Griffin next.
You take me higher when I feel low, make my world brighter when I'm alone. I keep on rolling, oh, with your fuel. You're like my gasoline that makes my dream come true. 'Cause this is the beginning.